My name's Randy Grimes. Yes, I had a 10-year career at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was a starting center for all those years. And that's where my addiction started. I'm from Texas, had a great childhood, had the best parents, but had a great career at Baylor University, went off the second round to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And one of the things that the older guys taught me was you do whatever you have to do to stay out on the field. And that is working through injuries, not being back in the training room. You didn't want to be that guy labeled as a whiner or an injury risk. You know, you wanted to stay out on that field because if you weren't there, somebody was going to be there to take your position. So that meant taking handfuls of pain pills every day to stay out there. And, you know, I justified it so many ways. You know, I wanted to be the best center that ever played the game. I wanted to play as long as I could. I wanted to feed my family. It was a job. And I wanted to lead the game or play the game on my terms. And I had so many enablers in my life. You know, I had all the team doctors, team trainers, teammates, fans. I had all those people that would enable my addiction to keep going. All I had to do was play good every Sunday. And I always did. And that just kept it going another week. What I never counted on was taking that addiction, that I wouldn't call it an addiction. I was calling it a necessary evil of the job, when in fact, it was full-blown addiction. I mean, guys, I played 10 years in the NFL, and the last 2 years of my career, I don't even remember. I played them in a blackout because of drugs and alcohol. And I never thought that I was going to take all that into my private life. But you know what? The injuries just got worse. I had a full-blown addiction. And when I left football and retired, I didn't have all those enablers. I didn't have all those teammates and team doctors and team trainers and all that. And that's when life got crazy. You know, I retired back to Houston, and this addiction went on for another 20 years. And here's the thing. It didn't matter how many jobs I lost, how many cars I lost, how many houses I lost, relationships. I couldn't stop doing what I was doing. And that was taking handfuls of pills every day. I couldn't stop it. And listen, you know what? I played 10 years in the NFL. I played against some big, mean, bad guys. You know, tough guys. And I won most of those battles. You know, you don't get to play in the NFL that long unless you're winning those battles. But these guys, too, couldn't do it on their own. Addiction is real. And it doesn't matter how tough you are. It doesn't matter who you are. It's real. And one of the things that I want to talk about with you guys, you know, I came in September 22nd, 2009 is when I finally got sober. I flew into an airport, I flew in Fort Lauderdale, drove up to a treatment center here, a treatment center that we all three work at right now. It's called Behavioral Health in Palm Beaches. And I fell out of the car, and I crawled in on all fours. That's where I was in my life. You know, I had lost everything. And I crawled in on all fours, desperate to get well. Because let me tell you something, at that point, I didn't see any hope. There wasn't any light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I would never have hurt myself, but I was ready for the next handful of pills to be my last. That's where addiction had taken me. Robbed me of everything. I lost everything. And I finally was at that point of desperation. And I remember somebody, when I checked in that night, I don't remember much about that night, but I remember hearing somebody say, Randy, in order to get this thing, you've got to have a desperation of a drowning man. And hey, as a young child, I almost drowned. I remember I was 8 years old in Tyler, Texas. I almost drowned, and I still remember the desperation I had as I was fighting my way back to the top of the water. Clawing my way to the top of the water, I remember how desperate I was to get to the air, to get to air. And I knew I was in the fight. I was in for the fight of my life. I knew what I was up against. You know, God has blessed me with so much in these last 6.5 years. You know, everything that was promised to me if I would just keep it as simple as doing the next right thing in recovery, and don't pick up no matter what. As an interventionist now, I get to travel all over the country and bring people back to treatment, because this is such a family disease that families reach out in desperation now. You know, I get to go into homes and see the missing TV, the wrecked car, the grandmother sitting there with no jewelry because it's all been stolen and pawned for drugs. I get to see the tears, feel the pain that's in that house. But I also get to drag the addict back into treatment, and I get to see the miracle that happens after 30 days of inpatient and the true meaning of recovery. Recovery works. But I don't want to leave here today, and I don't have a lot of time to talk. I don't want to leave here. First of all, I wanted you to know how bad it got in my life, and it got in everybody's life, because that's what happens in addiction. 3 things happen. You either wind up in handcuffs, in a hospital, or dead. That's the only 3 things. There are no successful addicts out there. There are no successful hopeless drunks out there. And what I want you guys to know is, yeah, all that, but what do you do if you suspect somebody? What do you do? Well, the one thing you don't do is bury your head in the sand, because it's not going to go away. It's going to get worse. And you've got to reach out. You've got to reach out to a counselor, to a teacher, to your minister, to anybody. Because listen, this is life and death. I see it every day. People die from this disease every day. And it's very serious. It's very serious that you don't bury your head in the sand. There are options. And you got to trust your gut. You got to know. You got to know that reaching out is going to save a life. You know, I'm so proud of the opportunity to work with these guys. We've got several. And we let Paul in because he's a Major League Baseball player. We just let him into our NFL group to carry our bags and stuff. But we've got a great group of former NFL players. Paul, baseball player. You know, we're trying to carry this message to you guys to let you know that there is hope. There is hope. And if you know somebody that's suffering from this disease and addiction, there's hope. And there's help. But you got to reach out. Okay, don't bury your head in the sand. You know, it's not the drug dealers on the corners anymore that we worry about. I mean, yeah, they're always there. But we worry about your drug, the medicine cabinets in your house, in your grandparents' house, in your neighbor's house. That's the new drug dealer of this generation. You know, prescription medication abuse and addiction is up over 200% just in the last 10 years. And you guys know it, you see it, you hear it. You know, prescription medication is being abused like crazy. I've got a treatment center that's full of people. That's what they're on sleeping pills, they're on pain pills, hooked on Adderall. You know, they can't stop. What's the definition of insanity? I mean, of addiction. Well, anything that makes your life unmanageable. Because of Adderall, because of abusing Adderall, their life is unmanageable. So that's what we're talking about today, guys. We want to bring awareness that there is help. And if you suspect somebody, then reach out. Don't bury your head in the sand anymore. So the next speaker is a very good friend of mine. Like I said, he's a Major League Baseball player. He's one of those guys that I say all the time, if he can do it, anybody can, because this guy was in bad shape. But he did do it. And he is another miracle of how recovery works. So listen, we're here for you. There is hope. We can help. We want you to reach out to us. You know, we've got websites, we've got Facebook pages. Anything you guys need, we are here for you. Okay? And even if you just need to talk about something, That's okay. So I'm going to introduce Paul Fletcher with the Phillies. Very good friend of mine.
I played Major League Baseball for a lot of years, and when I was your all's age, I grew up in West Virginia, and I sat in these stands in the bleachers with you, and at that time, all I wanted to do was grow up to be a Major League Baseball player. Okay? Not once did I sit there and say, man, I wish I grew up to be an alcoholic. But that's what I am. My name's Paul Fletcher, and I'm an alcoholic. And right now I can say that with pride. I don't have the shame and the guilt I used to have, but being able to admit that was extremely hard for me. But I've learned in the recovery process that there's really no shame in it. The real shame is not asking for help. Not doing something about it. Continuing to stay in that hole that I was in. I dug myself. But I also needed help to get out of it. So somebody finally put me at my bottom or whatever it was to have the strength to ask for help. But I finally got to that point where it was time. And that's when I came down here. A little bit about my story here. As you can tell, I went and played, and when I retired, that's where my alcoholism took off. I was not, I didn't adjust well to what we'll call the real world. I got paid a lot of years to play a kid's game, and something that I happened to love and was good at. But when that time came down, I really wasn't prepared for living in the real world. I had probably 10 jobs probably in a matter of 8 years, 9 years, and I hated every single one of them. I used that as an excuse to become a drunk. It got so bad mentally and physically that was affecting my family. I had 2 kids, a wife. I was living outside of Philadelphia, and everybody was affected by my actions as drinking every day. I wasn't out getting arrested or crashing cars or anything like that. I didn't abuse my kids or my wife. But what I did was come home already almost drunk every single night, and wasn't there mentally as a father. Wasn't there, really wasn't present in their life. And, it ended up in divorce, which affects the kids. In 2009, I got so bad mentally that one day I decided, I went to work that morning, drunk, from the night before. A buddy of mine at work said, man, you got to leave, you got to go home. And so I make up an excuse that my kids are sick, and I tell my boss I got to go home. I proceed to go home, drink all day, feeling shame, guilt. I drank all day, stayed up all night, drinking more, and then by the time it was 7:30 in the morning, I made the wise decision to attempt suicide. Picked up all the pills I had for prescriptions for blood pressure caused by my alcohol. And I took them, every single one of them. And I remember, I threw up all those. I couldn't keep them down because I chased them with alcohol. I threw them up with a tape. I scooped them all up and I threw them back in my mouth again. I mean, that's it. That's how the insanity is. So, before I went and laid in my bed, and then right before I passed out, whatever, I called my ex-wife. I said, please come over here in a couple of days. I don't want the people I was renting from to find me stinking up their place. So luckily, she put my kids on the school bus, came over to my place and found me, and was able to get to me in time. I don't remember anything, but ended up spending 4 days in the hospital, and then another 4 or 5 days in a psych ward where I swore I didn't belong. But that's exactly where I belong. Because what sane person attempts suicide? So thank God I'm here today. God spared me today. But you know what? That wasn't enough. It probably wasn't 3 or 4 months later I was back at it. And you think that would do enough to stop it, but that's just how powerful addiction can be. The alcohol, the drugs, the pills, anything like that. And with that, I struggled for another 2 years after that. And it affected my kids so badly. My son now is 19, he's in a freshman in college. And my daughter she'll be 13 here in about a month. And she's still going through it now, even though I've got almost 3 years sober. And the one thing I want to stress upon you guys when we're talking about awareness, as parents, you guys mean everything to us. Our kids mean everything to us. But when they get into, I'll speak about myself. When I got into my alcoholism, that has the power to become first in your life. You don't consider how you're affecting everybody else. You play it off. And, I think, I said this before at another high school, if my little daughter would have walked up to me and said, "Dad, you're killing me. Why do you keep doing this to yourself?" Or my son would say, "What are you doing, Dad? Please, please. You don't know how this is affecting me." That might have been enough. Now, I'm not saying that my kids could have stopped me and it's their fault. That's not it at all. But just for you guys, if you guys have a parent or a loved one or somebody going through that, think about that. Reach out to them, say something to them. Because that could be the difference that saves their lives. Because it is a family problem. Everybody's going to go through it differently, but eventually it'll eat up the whole family. There's going to be nothing but a lot more drama, a lot more problems, and it just continues to get worse. Now, I want to close here one last time I want to talk about heroin and the drugs you guys have to deal with today. Because we see, like I said, people come in our treatment center every day. The number one thing they're addicted to mostly is heroin. And it starts off one way, and that is the pain pills, prescription pills, and then they get too expensive, and they end up going to heroin. Now, guess how many times it takes to use heroin before you are absolutely blown addicted to it? One time. One time is all it takes. So that leaves no room for error. Curiosity. You're curious about it, try it. It's not like taking a drink and it tastes terrible. Never ever do it again. Heroin. Try it one time, you're done. And that sounds really bad, but that's how serious it is. And that's why I wanted to make sure I got that point across to you guys. Even though you think it might be curious to do this, that one time is going to change your life forever.
Any Bronco fans here? Come on! Okay, how about this? Any New England fans here? Okay. So my name is Vance Johnson. I played football with the Denver Broncos for 10 years. I played with, some of you probably heard of him, John Elway. I played with him for 10 years and went to 3 Super Bowls. And it's what I wanted to do my whole life, is be in the NFL and go to the Super Bowl. And be great and make my mother and father proud. I'm originally from New Jersey, and I ended up in New Jersey from Arizona. My mother grew up in Arizona. My father, he was stationed in service after getting in trouble with the law because he was involved in gangs. He was involved in drugs and violence. Ended up going into the service and went out to Arizona where he met this little 15-year-old girl. Don't try any of that, guys. My father was 21, my mom was 15, and he met her. She actually picked cotton in a gin yard where they picked cotton. She made 16 cents a day. When my father met her, he ended up marrying her and took her back to New Jersey where I was born. And when they got there, my father started to go back to his old ways where he was pushing drugs, drinking a lot of alcohol, doing a lot of partying, and he started to abuse my mother. My mother ended up leaving him with her young son, me, at a little over 16 and a half years old she was. And we went back out to Arizona. My father didn't want to lose my mother, so he ended up following her back out there. Got back with her, and my sister, Tammy, ended up being born. But my father, for some reason, never stopped drinking alcohol, never stopped smoking weed, never stopped putting his hands on my mother. Now, seeing this as a child was really traumatizing. But I didn't know it because it was my normal. This was normal for me to see my father drunk, see him come home, see him pissed off, see him doing the things he was doing in the streets, partying and everything, and doing drugs, and then coming home and beating my mom. Watching my mother when we were in the car driving down the street, and my mom, this nice church-going person who loves God, but for some reason when my father drank, he decided when he wasn't doing good, and to me as the enemy always attacking, he would put his hands on my mother, and I see the bruise on her face, and I watch her face get up against a window, and I see the blood coming out of her mouth. This was my normal. So to get away from that, I decided to just get involved in sports, just to be away from home, because I wanted to be around my father. I wasn't going to be like him when I grew up. So I ran track, I played football, I did everything I could just to get away from the chaos that I saw at home. I didn't even like sex because I saw my father do so many horrible things as a child. After going through junior high school and high school and being really good at sports, having great teachers in my life, going to church with my mother, always praying, but not understanding and seeing God's ways in my life because I didn't want to be like what I was growing up around. I didn't want to be like this. This prayer that we said at nighttime, the prayer that we said when we ate dinner, there was nothing that I saw any fruit coming from. All I saw was this woman who cried, who prayed, who went to church, and just wanted everything to be okay in her children's lives. And somehow, standing by this man's side, who I wanted her to lead him, think that in time, God's ways will show what this is all about. By the time I was drafted by the Denver Broncos, growing up in this world that I didn't want to be a part of, I just wanted to be great and famous and not be what I saw as a child. I had never had a drink, never did any drugs, never did anything. When I was drafted by the Broncos, my first game of my career was against the San Francisco 49ers. I was really scared. My first play, I had to stand on the any football players here, raise your hand. Got some ball players, all right. So you guys know this. I had to stand on the 10-yard line and catch a punt. If the ball goes over my head, let it go over the end zone, right? If it comes in front of you, you're going to catch it. Well, in Candlestick Stadium at the time, it was very windy. And the ball, when I saw it coming down, started to move around. So I ran up, and I was going to do a fair catch, but then all of a sudden the ball starts going backwards, so I go back again. And I get to the line where the 10-yard line is, and I reach back to grab the ball. It hits my hand, rolls into the end zone. San Francisco scores, touchdown. Denver Broncos lose. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get cut. My team is like, what? Your first play in your career? It's over, dude. So we go back to Colorado, and we have to go to practice the next day and go over the film where all these great ball players want to watch Vance Johnson get cut the first game of his career. I couldn't handle the pressure, so I said, guys, I don't know how to deal with this. They said, we know how to fix this. Let's go by the liquor store and get some tequila. I was like, anything to take this anxiety away. So I drink that tequila. And oh my Lord, I never felt so good in my life. Going into there, I couldn't care less whether they cut me or not because something made me feel so good about this that it just didn't matter. As time went on, I still sampled in alcohol, but I eventually started seeing this girl, and she got pregnant. She calls me from Houston, Texas, and says, I'm pregnant. If you don't marry me, I'm going to have an abortion. So I decide, I can't handle this pressure. So I go get a whole bottle of tequila. I started taking prescription pills, anything else that the NFL had in the locker room there that I could take so I could deal with the anxiety and the pressure of having to go marry someone. that I didn't even know the kid was mine, but we don't believe in abortion, so I go out and marry her. Long story short, by the end of my career, 10 years, 3 Super Bowls, I had been married 4 times with 7 children. I moved over to the western side of Colorado. I want to get into the mortgage business. I want to start going to church again. I want to believe in God because I don't believe like my father. I've gone through some domestic crap where I was even at one time a violent person. I ended up getting in trouble. If you want to go on to Google and pull up Oprah Winfrey, you'll see me on her show. I did a show with Oprah Winfrey talking about domestic violence. But I still had these underlying issues with dealing with drugs and alcohol. My oldest son, 19 years old, he decides he's going to come be around Dad because I want to be in my children's life. I'm going to church, but am I really a Christian? I want the pastor to see me there. I want the congregation to see Vance Johnson former Denver Broadway Church. My son moves over, he's going to college. I'm still hanging out, chasing ladies, married at this time by the 7th time. Doing drugs, doing alcohol. My 19-year-old son had crashed he blew his motor out of the motorcycle. He blew his engine out of his car. And so he took his motorcycle. I'm sure he tried to contact me, but he probably couldn't reach me because I was doing my thing. He took his motorcycle across the mountains to go see his mother, who was mourning over the loss of her father who just died of cancer. He goes to give his girlfriend a kiss goodnight. He heads back to have dinner. And this lady runs a stop sign and kills my son on his motorcycle. When I get a phone call from my ex-wife, I'm behind my bar at my restaurant and I'm drinking some tequila. I decided to drink 2 bottles of tequila because I didn't care anymore. Because the love of my life, my son Vance Johnson, was dead. It was my fault. And I drank myself and I used myself with drugs and alcohol into a coma. If you can show that picture, I want to show you guys me. My sister came from New Jersey to take a deathbed picture of me to say her goodbyes. They asked the pastor to come and pray over me. But this is where the truth comes in. When I wake up, I'm chained to this bed. And I see these shadows walking inside of my room. And I realize this is not a reality necessarily that I'm in right now. Because what I see coming in my room is here to probably go back and report that we got another one, boss. I knew that there was an eternity after that. And I prayed and I said, God, please let me live from this. Because if I live, I'll do everything I can to get your message out there. And after I got out of that bed, I went home and I still started to use drugs and alcohol again because I was continually deceived by the enemy. I would look back at the carnage of my life, the marriages, and the children, and the death of my son. And why am I alive? What for? And Randy Grimes started calling me. And I lied to him for months and months and months. And finally, when I couldn't take it anymore, and the bottom dropped out, Randy called me and I said, I'm ready to come in there. I need to get the help, but I don't want to live like this anymore. There's something else for me out there. And I go to this facility because God had taken me this whole road of my life to put me in a position where now I would have a voice because I'm completely broken. I went from millions down to nothing. And I was in there with anointed hands, and sometimes they just can't pray addiction out of you in the church. You have to go somewhere where you can hear the Lord himself. You have to get in the scriptures and be able to understand about being sober-minded, what it's about, and how the enemy wants to deceive you and take your life, take your loved ones' lives, and your parents' lives, and your lives. My higher power, my Lord, my Savior, Jesus Christ, had a message for me. And his message for my son and I was for me to be here to talk to you today. Because you're in this school for a reason. And you're the ones that are chosen. And you don't have to be deceived from this enemy who's trying to destroy you. Satan is real. He wants to break marriages up. I'm married for the 8th time. And I will never cheat on my wife. will never do drugs again. I will be transparent. I will be honest. And I will tell the youth about this addiction and about how the enemy wants to destroy you by doing it. And these are the last days. Churches are even lying. Pastors are even lying. There's a reality right now. It's time to really get in the scriptures and get along with the word and understand what God is trying to tell you and not be deceived so you can pass the message. Because this life is short, but you will pass on one day. And it's your job to go out and make disciples. I didn't come here to scare you guys, but I came here to give you a message. The message you get because you are believers, I hope, and if not, prayerfully you will be soon. But this is just a part of where we're going. We're just visiting here. God has a plan for us. And being sober-minded, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility on you. If you have a loved one, a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, uncle, a aunt, a cousin, a friend that's struggling or using, confront them. Because you are the youth, and it talks about you guys in the scriptures. And you have the power. This is your world. And I'm just here giving you a message passing through. And I want to close with this. And this is about the church. 2 Timothy is what I've been reading because I want to be a pastor one day. Because I know God has a message for me. 2 Timothy 3. He's talking to Christians, not this fleshly carnal world. In the last days, difficult times will come. For men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, teachers reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding every form of godliness, although they will be really denying the power of God. I'm not here to preach. I just want to pass on the message. Look at yourself and wonder, know who you are in Christ. You don't have to face this addiction like me and my brothers do. You can get the message now. It'll help others and show others out that the trap is out there. The enemy is real. If you guys want to reach us, you can reach out to our Facebook page if you have a phone. I know all you guys have a Facebook page, right? Take those selfies. Find me on Vance Johnson Athlete. I'm always on page talking. If you need help, reach out to Randy Grimes, Paul, myself. We'll do anything we can to help you out. I'm always talking online, have some great videos, audios. I have a son right now who's in jail because of this addiction crap. And I'm not sending him any money. I'm attaching him to the bug, and when his bottom falls out, I'll pick him up just like, I forgot who it was in the Bible, the prodigal son. When he turns around, I'm coming to run to him, but he has to come back this way. And I'll be there for him. I'm Vance. Thanks, guys. God bless you.